Wake up, lovers. It's time to start the journey. We have seen enough of this world. It's time to see another. This garden may be beautiful, but let us pass beyond it and go to the gardener. Let us kneel and kiss the ground and flow like a river towards the ocean. It is best to travel with companions on this perilous journey. Only love can lead the way. We have stayed at home, scared like mice. Let us find our courage and join the lions. Let our souls turn into a mirror, longing to reflect the essence of beauty. Rumi says, there is some kiss we want with our whole lives, the touch of spirit on the body. Let us begin the journey home. My friends, what a state the first mansion of the castle is in. In these rooms, we are thinking constantly of our thousands of worldly affairs and fears and obsessions, for we are still very much attached to them. And where our treasure is, well, there is our heart also. So many inner demons enter into this room with us, that we do not find peace here. And our senses remain distracted and ill-controlled. So this is the mansion of beginning to wake up. And St Teresa says that for our souls to have entered into this mansion at all, we have had a glimpse of light, but it's still pretty cold in here. And she says we spend a long time going around in circles pretty close to the door. So in this first mansion, we'll hear some words from Lala, who was a Kashmiri mystic in the 13th century. And Lala has some advice for us about reminding us to stay focused if we want to keep on waking up. I will weep and weep for you, my mind, my soul. The world has caught you in its spell, and though you cling to them with an anchor of steel, not even the shadow of the things you love will go with you when you are dead. So why then have you forgotten your own true self? Your thoughts are like a child fretting near its mother's breast, restless and afraid, but who, with a little guidance, can find the path to courage. Meditate within eternity. Don't stay in the mind. Have you forgotten the promise you made inside your mother's womb to die before you die? When will you remember what you intended? Don't let your donkey wander loose. It will stray into your neighbour's saffron garden, and think of the damage it will do, and the punishment. And who then will carry you naked to your own death? Your face is beautiful, but your loving is cold. Your tongue is tired from repeating sacred mantras over and over. And your fingers, you've worked them to the nub, copying texts. But still, the rage inside you has found no way to leave. The path is difficult and very intricate. Lala has discarded her books that told about it, and through meditation saw a truth that never comes to anyone from reading books. On the way to God, the difficulties can feel like being ground by a millstone, like night coming at noon, like lightning through the clouds. But don't worry. What must come, comes. Face everything with love as your mind dissolves into God. What is bitter at first is sweet in the end. And what is sweet at first is poison in the end. But to everyone is given a choice. It all depends on the effort put in and the unflagging determined will. For whoever strives must soon arrive at the city of their choice. If you want everlasting glory, don't go back to sleep. If you want to burn with love, don't go back to sleep. We have wasted so many nights. Tonight, for the love of God, meet the dawn and don't go back to sleep. St Teresa says we spend a long time in the first mansion. My friends, in the second mansion there is a great struggle. The assault which the inner demons now make upon the soul is terrible. They continue to pretend to the soul that earthly pleasures are eternal, and they try to convince the soul back to the first mansion. But on the other hand, reason tells the soul how mistaken it is in thinking that these worldly pleasures are of the slightest value compared to what it is seeking. And reason tries to redirect the soul's attention back to that first glimpse of light. The mansion of sinking deeper. So the soul is sinking deeper into these spiritual processes, and it is getting hot and painful and confusing. And the soul is battling between old and new patterns and old and new experiences. And it seems like the soul had this first glimpse of light and then it's gone, and you can feel quite abandoned. And Rumi left a lot of text describing this confusion. So a few words from Rumi. I've given up on my brain. I've torn the cloth to shreds and thrown it away. If you're not completely naked, wrap your beautiful robe of words around you and sleep. I wonder from these thousands of me's, which one am I? I don't even know if I am or I am not. When I think I am, I find myself worthless. And when I think I am not, I find my value. Like my thoughts, I die and rise again each day. So how could I doubt the resurrection? I was the doorkeeper at the gate of my beloved. He left. And now, bewildered, I don't know which way to turn. Who are you, my friend? The promised lover or the deceitful enemy? You ruin everything I build. My soul has sprung from yours. It carries the scent of your perfume. I am nothing, just a mirror in the palm of your hand. Only your presence revives my withered heart. You are the candle that lights the whole world. I am an empty vessel for that light. Please, my God, come back, or let me leave this lonely world. My God, do not give me back to myself. So yeah, the soul is really getting a sense of being cooked quite painfully here. And the Sufis particularly have a lot of beautiful metaphor in their stories and texts. And they sometimes describe this spiritual process as a cooking process, like a boiling process, that the soul is being cooked. And Rumi has this lovely text about a chickpea. I have these chickpeas here. I don't remember what it is in German. I asked somebody in the dinner.
Kichererbsen. Kichererbsen.
Kichererbsen.
Giggling peas.
Giggling?
Giggling. Kichern means to giggle.
They're called giggling peas?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
They are boiled, they're starting to giggle maybe.
Ah, that fits so well. That's great. So yeah, I sometimes think we're all a little bit like giggling peas at the festival, with our cook. So anyway, Rumi. A chickpea jumps almost over the rim of the pot where it's being boiled. Why are you doing this to me? The cook knocks it back down with a ladle. Don't you try to jump out. You think I'm torturing you, but I'm giving you flavour so you can mix with the spices and the rice and become the lovely vitality of a true human being. Remember when you drank rain in the garden? That was for this. Grace first, sexual pleasure, and then a boiling new life begins, and the friend has something good to eat. Eventually, the chickpea will say to the cook, "Boil me some more! Hit me with your skimming spoon! I can't do this by myself! I'm like an elephant that dreams of gardens back in Hindustan and doesn't pay attention to its driver. You're my cook, my driver, my way into existence. I love your cooking." The cook replies, "I was once like you, fresh from the ground. And then I boiled in time, and I boiled in the body. 2 fierce boilings. My animal soul grew powerful. I controlled it with practices. And then I boiled again. And then I boiled once more beyond that. And only then I became your teacher." But, so that leads us to the question of how we find a cook. How do we find the right teacher to lead us through this hot process? So Hafiz, who's a 14th century Persian poet, has a few words to say about this. Fire has a love for itself. It wants to keep burning. It is like a woman who is at last making love to the person that she most desires. Find a master who is like the sun. Go to his house in the middle of the night, smash a window, act like a great burglar, and jump in. Now, gather up all your courage and jump into his bed. He will probably kill you. Fantastic. That is the whole idea.
Wow.
What matters in the third mansion, my friends, is whether we practice the virtues of focused prayer and disciplined meditation, and whether we make a complete surrender of our will to God, or let us desire that not our will, but His will be done. Here in the third mansion, we will find out if we are truly detached from the things that we have abandoned. For our self-mastery over our passions will be tested. And without complete self-renunciation and utter humility, we are only fighting ourselves. Mansion of detachment and self-mastery. So I wanted to share a few more words from Lala here, Kashmiri mystic. So Lala had Sufi and Hindu and yogic influences in her spiritual awakening. And at a certain point in her journey, she decided to completely surrender and detach herself from everything. So she left her life, she left her teacher, left everything behind, and began to wander completely naked through the foothills of the Himalayas in Kashmir in a state of ecstatic clarity, spontaneously sharing poems and songs about her experiences with God. So I'll share some of her text about her journey. My guru gave me just one teaching. From without, withdraw the gaze within and fix it on the inmost self. While taking to heart this one teaching, naked I began to roam. From one shrine to the next, the seeker cannot stop for breath. But soul, understand this. You should have looked in the mirror, because going on a pilgrimage is like falling in love with the greenness of faraway grass. Stay here. In this state, there is no Shiva, nor any holy union. There is just a somewhat something moving dreamlike along a fading road. Loosen the load of sweetness I'm carrying. This sling knot is biting into my shoulder. This day has been so meaningless. I feel I can't go on. When I was with my teacher, I heard a truth that made my heart hurt like a blister. The tender pain of seeing everything I loved as an illusion. The flocks I tended are gone. I am like a shepherd without even a memory or what that means. Climbing this mountain, I feel so lost. I wearied myself searching for the friend with efforts beyond my own strength. But when I came to the door and I saw how powerfully the locks were bolted, well then the longing in me became that strong. And with that waiting and in giving up all trying, only then did Lala flow out from where I knelt. All the names are true, but I kept repeating that of my teacher and Om Namah Shivaya, the greeting that brings peace to the world and to the spirit. With passionate practices, I held the reins secure on my mind, and I made the breath one column. And then compassion came, and I saw the Absolute, and the new moon's clear nectar descended into me, nothing pouring into nothing. And now all the delightful forms and motions are transparent. I look through them, and I see myself as the Absolute. But what is the answer to the riddle of this dream? You leave so that we too can do one dance. Dance, Lala, with nothing on but air. Sing, Lala, wearing the sky. Look at this glowing day. What clothes could be more beautiful or more sacred? He is me. I am he. And both nothing are. My friends, I want you to be warned that if you are to ascend to the mansion of your desire, then the important thing is not to think much, but to love much. Thoughts, as a rule, fly so fast. We send all the faculties of our soul after our thoughts, thinking we are lost, while misusing the time that we are spending in the presence of God. If we can turn our longing to God, then great consolation will come to us here, of the greatest sweetness and quietness and peace within ourselves. Like water flowing, it has its source in God and ends in ourselves. Then an enlargement of the heart takes place. But we are not safe. Still, the inner demons will try to stop us from carrying on. We must stay awake. the mansion of intimacy. And as many of us know, when we turn this longing to God, often brings up deep sadnesses and tears. But Mirabai, who was a Hindu mystic from Rajasthan in the 16th century, she was very much in love with her Lord Krishna. She says that with these tears and with this sadness, all is well. Mirabai says, it is the heat of the midnight tears that will bring us to God. This is the human way. Listen, my friends, this road is the heart opening, kissing his feet, resistance broken and tears all night. If we could reach the Lord through immersion into water, well, then I would have asked to have been born a fish in this life. If we could reach God by eating wild berries and nuts, well, then wouldn't the saints have been monkeys when they came from the womb? If we could reach God by munching lettuce and dry leaves, well, then surely the goats will get to the Holy One before any of us. If we could reach God by worshipping stone statues, well, then I would have adored a granite mountain long ago. Mirabai says, it is the heat of the midnight tears that will bring us to God. So these consolations found in the fourth mansion give us a feeling of this quality of union, a feeling of this touch of spirit, of the kiss that Rumi was talking about. And there's a deepening intimacy with God, and it makes us hungry for more. So a few more words from Rumi and Mirabai. My friend, he looked, and our eyes met. An arrow came in. My chest opened. Oh, what could it do? And his image moved inside. All I was doing was being. And the dancing energy came by my house. And now, I am mad with love, and nobody understands my plight. Only those who have felt the knife can understand this wound. I want to see you, know your voice, recognize you when you first come around the corner. I want to sense your scent when I come into a room that you've just left. I want to know the lift of your heel and the glide of your foot. I want to become familiar with the way you purse your lips and then let them part just the slightest bit when I lean into your space to kiss you. I want to know the joy of how you whisper more. But, as we know, things don't stay so sweet on the spiritual path for long. So there's still a lot of confusing things can start happening, and sometimes we think we're looking in the right place and getting the right advice and everything, and then suddenly we realise there was some kind of confusion there or mistake, and we need to change direction and look in a different place. So I was going to share with you here a Nasruddin story. You may be familiar with Nasruddin. He's this character of the holy fool, the holy trickster, who comes up in a lot of stories from the Middle East. And Nasruddin has his own logic about life. But somehow through his stories there can be some wisdoms for the spiritual seekers. So one day, Nasruddin's friend Mansur comes to visit him. But when he gets there, he sees that Nasruddin is outside his house, on his hands and knees, crawling around on the pavement, underneath a lamppost. He seems to be searching for something. He seems frustrated. And Nasruddin, "Oh, have you lost something? What are you looking for?" Mansur, "I've lost the key to my house." "Oh, let me help you." So Mansur gets down on his hands and knees and he starts to crawl around on the pavement underneath the lamppost looking for the lost key. But after some time, neither Nasruddin nor Mansur can find the key. So Mansur thinks, well, I'll try to help Nasruddin remember when he last had the key. "Nasruddin, when did you last have the key? Where did you lose it?" "Mansur, I lost the key inside my house." "Inside your house?" Nasruddin, "But if you lost the key inside your house, why are we outside your house, on our hands and knees on the pavement, underneath this lamppost, looking for the lost key?" "Mansur, because there is more light here." Oh, my friends, how shall I ever be able to tell you of the riches and treasures and delights that are to be found in the fifth mansion? Here, in the moment of the unlooked-for hour, a sudden moment where all the faculties of the soul temporarily, completely die to the world. The soul is then suddenly awakened by a flame that conveys to the consciousness that God is here. And then suddenly all the burdens of the soul are lifted and it becomes full of sunshine and happiness. However, this union has not yet reached the point of permanent divine marriage, and we are not guaranteed safety. And if we set our attention on anything other than Himself, then the inner demons, with great subtlety and craft, will try and succeed to win us back. A mansion of surrender. And St Teresa talks about this unlooked-for hour, where if we completely surrender our soul, then we can experience these moments of absolute clarity, of wisdom and light. But yes, these moments are not permanent. They're not permanent, but after it's happened, something has changed. Something that can't be undone. And it's like a new wakefulness has landed in the soul's foundation. So in this mansion, I thought to share with you a story which is very much about this unlooked-for hour. There was once a young man who asked himself these questions. Well, who am I? And how am I connected to all the others and to everything? Well, he wondered and he wondered and he asked himself these questions again and again. He was desperate to know the answers. Eventually, he took himself to a wise teacher. He said, "Teacher, tell me, who am I and how am I connected to all the others and to everything?" "Study," said the wise teacher. "It is study that will solve these riddles." "Oh, well, what must I study?" asked the young man. "You must study the 1,001 books. It is through this study that you will gain wisdom." Wow. The young man was very excited. He gathered together the 1,001 books and he put them into his cart. He got some dry bread and some candles. He put on his cap and his shawl and he stuffed some paper into his shoes for warmth. And he took himself to a small house on the edge of a town. Well, inside the house, the young man sat at his desk day after day, reading through the 1,001 books. On one piece of paper he wrote, "Who am I?" And on a second, "How am I connected to all the others and to everything?" Well, time passed by, and outside the trees turned fiery and began to lose their leaves. Inside the house, the young man continued to fill page after page with learning from his books. He stopped only to eat a little of the dry bread, or sometimes to renew his candle, or rest his aching shoulders on the desk. The young man's wrists grew thin, and his eyes burned, and the 1,001 books stood stacked around him in wobbling towers, and the papers on his desk were piled up before him like a fence. Well, one night, a freezing rain beat in a torrent against the walls of the house. The young man felt the cold, but he pulled his shawl more tightly around him. But he could feel the damp in his back like a knife. His feet were numb, and the papers on his desk were beginning to swim before his eyes. And suddenly he picked up his book and he threw it to the window. "I don't know!" he yelled. "I don't know!" Well, just at that very moment, the rain outside halted, and a howling wind blew up. It rattled at the panes of the window, and with a sudden surge of power, it ripped open the catches, and a shock of cold air came into the room. The candle flame went out, and the papers on the desk scattered and fluttered up into the air like the feathers of a giant white bird. The young man managed to stagger to the window and he wrenched it shut. And then, slowly he turned and looked across the room, because on the other side of the swinging doors that led to the next room, he could see a faint glow of light. "How can this be?" he thought. "There's nobody in the house but me." The young man felt afraid, but the light glowed so softly. Eventually he crossed the room and he went through the swinging doors, but the light drew him on further. This time he had to part through curtains to get into the next room, but still the light drew him on. And soon he found himself going through room after room after room. Could it be that the house had always had so many rooms? He thought. Could it be that I had just forgotten? Eventually he could see that the light was just beyond a tightly closed door. He pushed open the door, and he watched as the glow of light began to settle on a bed in the small room. He watched as the light faded down, and then suddenly it flared up, and then before his eyes, it turned into a beautiful woman. The woman's skin was dark, and her hair curled about her face. Her garments were like the shadows of leaves, and the bed on which she sat was covered with quilts the colour of shells, and the walls of the room seemed soft as clouds. "Who are you?" he asked. "I am your soul," said the woman. "I am the Shekinah. Eat and be full." And with that, the woman lifted to the bed a huge tray, laden with a great feast. Fruits of every kind filled the tray. The young man felt ravenous. He fell to it and he ate his fill. After he had finished, the Shekinah handed him a cup of steaming broth. And as the young man drank it, he felt the warmth seep back into his bones. "Come, bathe now," said the Shekinah. And around him the man could feel hot, lapping, washing water. And afterwards, a towel folded around his body held in the sweet heat. "Now, come, sleep," said the Shekinah, and she helped the young man into the bed. For 6 nights, the man clung to the Shekinah, wrapped now in the deepest sleep, and then awake and gazing into her eyes, and then holding her as completely as he could, and then drifting again into the soft snow of sleep. On the 7th night, the Shekinah rose up, and she kissed the young man on his lips. And as he looked at her, the features on her face seemed to be melting, and he watched as she faded back to that small glow of light. The young man lay on the bed, unable to move, his breath caught in his throat. Well, he didn't know how long he slept after that, but when he next opened his eyes, the sun was shining. He gathered up the pits of the fruits that he had eaten, and he went outside, and there he planted a garden. And in the middle of that garden, he placed a stone. And on the stone he wrote, "I am one with all. All is one." Well, many years passed by, and the seeds of that garden grew up into a mighty orchard, fruit trees of every kind. The young man was no longer young. He was an old man now who carried his grandchildren on his arms. But always, on the Sabbath day, the old man would light the candles, and he would whisper the story of the calling of the soul. "Come, Shekinah, come." He would whisper to the breeze that flickered the candle flames bright. "Come, Shekinah, come, and fill this garden with your rest." St. Catherine of Siena says that it's strange how so much suffering is caused by the misunderstanding of God's true nature. God's love is more gentle than the Virgin's first kiss upon the Christ. And God's forgiveness to all, to any thought or act, is more certain than our own being. My friends, this is the final spiritual tempest. Here, the soul's sight of its beloved makes it completely determined to take no other lover. However, when the soul is disturbed from this sight of God, it sees so clearly its own faults and sins that it is like the tortures of hell. If we realize the intensity of these trials beforehand, it will be most difficult for us to choose to enter into these mansions at all. Here we pray for the time of the unlooked for hour to never end, the freedom of the soul from all distractions. My friends, despite the suffering, you will be repaid for everything at once in the end. The mansion of courage, the soul's final battles between darkness and light, shadow and union, trauma and being free of trauma. So she says we need great courage here, the courage of wrestling with a lion. And she says that there is more fear here of being separated from God than there was at the beginning. So a few words from Hafiz about this courage that is needed, and some humour too. I would not want all my words to parade around this world in pretty costumes. So I will tell you something of the barroom view of love. Love is grabbing hold of the great lion's mane and wrestling and rolling deep into existence, while the beloved gets rough and begins to maul you alive. True love, my dear, is getting an ironclad grip on the sore, swollen balls of a divine rogue elephant and not having the good fortune to die. So yes, and this mansion shifts between ecstasy and loss. And the soul is desperately trying to put light on the last corners of shadow trauma. And we can only keep listening to the whisper and really hearing it and being guided by it. And Rumi, again, left a lot of text describing this split. So close, but so painfully far in the next moment. I am a slave of that perfect moon. Don't talk to me of suffering, I don't want to hear. Talk to me of light, of joy, of sweetness. And if you can't, keep silent. Last night, love found me shouting, mad and beyond myself. And love said to me, I am here. Why are you so worried and afraid? Oh, love, I am overwhelmed with fear. Be silent. Let me whisper a secret in your ear. Just nod your head and don't say a word. Oh, how subtle, how delicate is the path of love. This most precious moon-like beauty has appeared to me. But tell me, is this the moon or is it my imagination? Be silent. It is not for you to understand. Don't you see you have been blessed? But what is it? Tell me, is this the face of a man or of an angel? Be silent. What you see is beyond angels or men. But what is it? Tell me, or I will go out of my mind. Be silent. Do not torment yourself. Leave this house of illusions and say no more. But tell me, I begged, is this the face of God? And my heart nodded silently. My friends, let us call this mansion a second heaven. Perfect peace. Here, the Holy Trinity have been revealed as one. One substance, one knowledge, one power, and one God alone. This holy three as one are in the interior of our hearts, in its greatest depths, a divine companionship. We might say that union is as if the ends of two wax candles were joined, so that the light they give is one. Here, the soul has a constant remembrance of God, and He will never fail to assure us of His presence. What a difference there is between hearing and believing these words and being led through the mansions to see how true they are. You will ask the question how, if this presence cannot be seen, the soul can be so sure that it is Christ. This is a question that the soul cannot answer, yet it is perfectly certain that it is right. My friends, we can reach this mansion. We only fail by not laying a good foundation for our castle, and by not departing from all that shut out this light, and by not seeing ourselves in this mirror into which we are gazing, and in which our image is engraved. Mansion of divine marriage. In this mansion I've weave together some lines of text from various different mystics, from this great cloud of witnesses. And I always hope that they forgive me for putting their words together in this way. But I feel that they're all voices from one divine heart, and it's a space we share with them. So here we'll hear words from Rumi Rabia of Basra, who's a Muslim saint and Sufi mystic, St John of the Cross, Devara Dasi Maya, an Indian poet saint, St Catherine, Lala, St Teresa, and St Paul. Remember that kiss we want with our whole lives, the touch of spirit on the body? Well, one day he didn't leave after he kissed me. Lover transformed in the beloved upon my flowery breast. There he lay sleeping, and I caressed him. I'm the one who has the body. You're the one who has the breath. That's why your body is in mine. And you and I both know, Ramanatha, the miracle of your breath in my body. You, eternal Trinity, are a deep sea. The more I enter you, the more I discover. And the more I discover, the more I seek you. Not Christian or Jew or Muslim, not Hindu, Buddhist, Sufi or Zen, my place is the placeless, a trace of the traceless. I belong to the beloved. Only this breath, breathing human being. Is breath awareness all there is? I, Lala, entered the jasmine garden where Shiva and Shakti were making love. I dissolved into them. But what is this to me now? I seem to be here, but really I am walking in the jasmine garden. Enlightenment absorbs this universe of qualities, and when that merging occurs, there is nothing but God. There is no word for this, no mind to understand it with, no categories of transcendence or non-transcendence, no holy vow of silence, and no mystical attitude. There is no Shiva and no Shakti in enlightenment. But if there is something that remains, then that, whatever it is the only teaching. Love is the perfect stillness and the greatest excitement and the most profound act. And the word is almost as complete as his name. Christ has no body on earth but yours. No hands but yours. No feet but yours. Yours are the eyes through which to look out Christ's compassion to the world. And yours are the feet with which he is to go about doing good. And yours are the hands with which to bless men now. I live now not my own life, but the life of Christ, which lives on in me. Not my will, but thy will. We live now not our own lives, but the life of Christ, which lives on in us.